Hey guys, what's going on? Welcome back to Let's Vibe Code. Today I'm going to show you how to get a connection from your Linux environment within Node to Postgres. So that way we can have a quick setup of the database. I'm going to show you some of the packages that we're going to install, some of the environment variables and how to manage that. And basically we're going to use Codex to make the connection. However, I want to provide it with some infrastructure, right? So that's what we're going to go over today. So let's get into it. All right, so the first thing we're going to want to do is pull up our development environment here in Linux. Now we've got an apps directory. We're going to do all of our work in apps. Right now I just have a simple JavaScript file that you may or may not have seen. However, I want to create a new directory, and this directory will house our connection to our database. So I'm going to make a directory. We'll just call it test connect. And then we'll cd into that directory. And as you see, we do an ls command and we've got nothing in there. Now, the first thing we want to do is we want to set up a node environment. And then after we do that, we're going to install different packages. We're going to have our environment variables that have our database credentials in it. And we're going to establish that in a secure way. So that way we don't end up pushing anything to, let's say, GitHub or somewhere else where somebody's going to get access to those credentials. That being said, these credentials are just local environment credentials. So if they do leak, I mean, I'm making a video about it. It's not a big deal, right? Really, you want to protect your production credentials. Anything that's hosted, people can potentially get access to it, and you want to keep that safe, right? All right. So the first thing we're going to do is set up our node environment. So we're going to do npm tech npm init tech y, and that's going to get things rolling. So now what we've got is we've got a package.json. We don't have to worry about that right now. But what we want to do is we also want to install some packages that we're going to use. So npm I for install. The package name is .env. This is where we're going to house our credentials. And we will use pgpromise. This will be our package that allows us to connect to Postgres. And then we'll hit enter. And those packages will download. Now, if we hit an ls-l, we'll see now we've got node modules. This is the .env and the pgpromise. We've got our package.json and our package lock.json. So we'll just clear that out. And I want to open this up in VS Code. All right, so what we can do is we can also add an index.js file. Index.js is sort of a typical starting point for a lot of JavaScript applications. So we're going to want to go to Codex over here. And basically, we want to tell Codex what we have and what it is we want to accomplish, right? Um, Before I get too far ahead of myself, we'll do a git ignore. And what this does, if you guys are familiar with Git and version control, the git ignore basically excludes the files that you include in the git ignore. So that way they are not tracked. The sorts of files you want to add to your git ignore are going to be your .env, because we don't want to push any sensitive information or credentials up to GitHub where the whole world can see it, right? So we're going to create our git ignore. .git ignore. And we're just going to put .env in there at first, and we'll hit save. And we'll create our .env folder. And then within this is where we're going to have our database credentials. Now, for your local database, if you set it up the way I did, the credentials will be just like this. Local host, you've got your port, we've got our development database, user and password are the same. So we're good to go there. Now what we want to do is we want to come over to Codex and give it some instructions and tell it what it is we want to do, but also provide it with what we already have, right? So I'll type this out. All right, so the instructions I gave Codex was we have a node environment set up, make a connection to our local Postgres database using credentials in .env. I have installed pgpromise, so use that as well. Once complete, please create a test script where we can create a table and insert some values into it. Also, have some test scripts that let us query the table and logs that data from the table. So we'll hit enter and see what it comes out with. All right, so it's asking us to set up agent sandbox to continue. Basically right here in this prompt, we just want to say yes, don't bother asking me again, go ahead and do your thing. Do you want to run this command npm test? Yes, go ahead and run the command. All right, so it hit a permissions issue, so it's going to wire it differently. We'll just accept it with yes. All right, so it looks like it's done. It says I've added PG promise connection and test scripts. So we've got a database.js, which we've got right here. And this is going to be our, looks like our connection using our .env and environment variables to our local Postgres instance. Index.js is a simple connection test that runs the main function and simply spits out whether or not the connection failed or succeeded. So let's try that right now. And we'll just run node index.js, and it looks like we've got a connection. So that's a healthy outcome right there. All right, so we've got the seed, create in seed.js. It's going to create a table called test items, and it's going to insert some of these items into that table. And then we've got another script called query items where we simply just query from this test items table and then output that query to the console so that way we can see it. And within package.json, it gave us a nice little script command, a series of commands here that we can run with npm. So what you see here, we're going to run npm connect, npm run dbseed, npm run dbquery, just like that. So let's do it real quick. We've already done the connect, but I will do npm run connect. Looks like we're good. The next one is npm run dbseed. So we're going to seed the db. Looks like we've already got things in there. And then we'll run npm dbquery. And we get our cute little output there. Now, if we really want to test it, we'll come to our DBeaver environment here, and we'll check out the tables. Sometimes you just have to get this to update, just do a little disconnect, and then you connect right back to it. Go to your schemas, public, your tables, and now we have our test items here. You can check out the columns, but let's run a quick query. We'll just select everything from that table, from test items, and we get the same output. So what we have now is we have a cute little environment in Node where using JavaScript, we've used our environment variables for a local database and use them to connect to that environment through JavaScript. And we did it all with basically Codex. Super easy, super simple, just a little proof of concept here. I can understand some of this might be intimidating. There's a lot going on here. If you want to learn a bit more about coding to get comfortable with what you're seeing here, there's a ton of videos out there on YouTube. I may even create a series myself, but at the moment, I just don't have that information readily available for you guys. So for that, I apologize. But what I wanted to do is basically just a proof of concept, use Codex, get an initial setup, initial baseline setup with the tooling and the packages that we want to use, and then we give Codex a nice little prompt that tells it, hey, this is what we've got, this is what we want to achieve, and it simply goes out there and does it. You can see it did a really nice job. It's got a nice little organization here where it's got scripts in the directory. It's got our connection, our test connection, as well as some commands to run that do a series of things, right? Those things being seed the database and query it. So that's all I've got for you today, guys. I hope this video was helpful. We will start getting into bigger projects, more complicated things. But for now, I want to keep it small. So I hope you liked it. If you do, please leave a like. If you want to see more of the series, keep an ear to the ground by subscribing to the channel. So I appreciate you. Have a good one.